do, as long as Mylan's and we do.
All right. I call to order the June 5th, 2024 meeting of the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission. It is 1:34 p.m. Can I get a roll call?
Danielle Henderson, Michael Widmer, Bill Hauk, Casey Menser,
Present.
John Enlow, John Flansburgh, Mylin Nguyen, Michael Drinkwater, Chris Melton, Eric Crump, Mervyn Wright, Cara Steelan, Thomas Payette, Cindy Churchek, Ron Penrose, Jennifer Carr, David Kelly. We have a quorum. For telephone-only participation, dial 1-669-444-9171 and enter the meeting ID 840-0063-9077, followed by pound. Please mute and unmute phones by dialing *6. To sign up for public comment in person, complete a public comment card and submit it to the clerk. In the Zoom platform, raise your virtual hand icon. If attending by phone, dial *9 to notify the clerk. Note that dialing *9 both raises and lowers the virtual hand.
All right, moving on to item number 2, public comments. Are there any members of the public wishing to comment at this time?
We have none.
All right, item 3, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Okay. Motion
Second.
by Commissioner Drinkwater,
Second.
second by Commissioner Melton. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Item 4, approval of the minutes from the May 1st, 2024 Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission meeting.
Move to approve Widmer.
Second, Enlow.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Woodward, second by Commissioner Anlow. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Item 5, presentation and report regarding progress and status of Nevada Water Innovation Institute, NWI, studies and projects supported by the Regional Water Management Fund. All right, Ms. Rigdon.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Commission. Good afternoon. The Nevada Water Innovation Institute within UNR has 2 interlocal agreements with the Western Regional Water Commission. The first is to provide continued support for regional water planning, and the second is to support the water reclamation facilities in developing and implementing their enhanced source control programs, working towards the advanced purified water projects that we're moving forward with. Dr. Krishna Pagila is the chair of the Civil and Environmental Engineering Department and the director of the Nevada Water Innovation Institute, and he is here with Dr. Laura Hauk to present the good work that UNR is doing with our region. And I'll turn the time over to them.
Thank you, Ms. Richard. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, for the record, my name is Krishna Pagila. I'm here with Laura from UNR.
As the agenda item says, that we are going to present the progress of the projects that we are doing funded by the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission and Western Regional Water Commission. I just want to go back a few years and kind of give you a chronology of the support that we have provided and which has yielded tremendous outcomes for the region and for the university. In fact, Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission and many of you sitting at the table here were part of the original visioning. And I think you will see Commissioner Enlow, Commissioner Drinkwater right there in the picture, Commissioner Enlow in the back, and Commissioner Drinkwater behind Ms. Dr. Lydia Perry. This was way back in 2017, and there was strong support to do something where we can all work together and advance the water resiliency of the region. And a year later, we founded the Nevada Water Innovation Campus, as it was known at the time. And then ultimately, it was renamed as the Nevada Water Innovation Institute, approved by the Nevada System of Higher Education Board of Trustees. So we did celebrate the 5-year anniversary a year ago, and here we are. So the leadership of the Institute, just to recollect your memory, Mr. John Martini of the City of Sparks serves as the chair of the Board of Advisors, and Mr. Smith from Washoe County as the vice chair, and I serve as the director, and Dr. Eric Marchand is the associate director. Of course, the core group of researchers who are involved in the projects that we are doing right now are Dr. Laura Hawk, Dr. Lindley, who is not here, and Baram Wahidi, who is in the audience there. This is a chronology of what we have been able to do and all the things that you've supported, the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission and Western Regional Water Commission. So if you see that as early as 2016, prior to the Nevada Water Innovation Institute, you funded a regional project involving all the entities in the region to look at water reclamation to drinking water quality, and that project is called Advanced Water Technologies Demonstration, which was conducted both at UNR and at the South Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility, ultimately culminating in the demonstration at Reno State. And then following that, you had supported several projects, both for coordination of the regional water management efforts and also the effluent guidance document. We are still working on small elements of those. Then fast forward a little bit, the more recent effort is to look at wastewater enhanced source control, which is an outcome of the project that we did to advance the portable reuse options for water reclamation. And then we fast forward to the present day. That's what we are working on, the regional enhanced source control monitoring right now in the Reno State Sewershed area, as well as other activities. And I'm going to show you a couple of those. In fact, Laura is going to present those. This commission and the broader community and the organizations had tremendous impact. And I've shown this a while back, but I still want to show it for impact for those who have not seen this slide, that because of all the efforts that we did collectively, we did together, there has been tremendous outcomes in terms of workforce development. These are all the people, not complete list, we have left some of them out, but all the students and the graduates who have come out of the research and development we've done over the years. You can see a very large number of them are still in the region and still serving the region through either consulting companies or within your own organizations. So this is the regional Category A+ program. This really evolved out of that 2016 project Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission and Western Regional Water Commission supported. Laura did her PhD on that. The first bullet item is where we looked at the feasibility of doing portable reuse option in the North Valleys, particularly in the Reno State area. And that's basically showing the environmental, economic, and social benefits and costs of doing such a project in comparison with the status quo, and showed that there are significantly more benefits than costs involved in there. And since then, we've been supporting the team that we now call One Water Nevada team, and continuing to do pilot scale work, leading up to the demonstration work that was conducted at Reno State. We are continuing to do some more research and support the team in any efforts, whether to improve the treatment train or during the design and public education aspects of it. So really the outcomes of that project, all those efforts that you funded in the past few years, is this project which is going to a full-scale implementation. It's albeit still a demonstration project, but a 2 MGD facility being implemented by City of Reno and Tamwa. And this is basically the outcomes of all that research to show that we can produce drinking water quality, exceed drinking water quality by operating this system using the reclaimed water from Reno State. And I won't go into the technical details of it in the interest of time, and some of you have seen this, is that we can meet all the regulations and above that. And the figure in the bottom shows that the system can remove any constituents of concern to levels below detection or way below guidance levels. And that's really the outcome of this set of projects. So now I'm going to turn it over to Laura, who's going to talk about the current efforts underway, which is the Regional Enhanced Source Control Monitoring Project, which allows us to prevent these constituents of concern from coming into the wastewater in the first place, thereby allowing us to have lower operating costs and maybe have lesser treatment needs in advanced potable reuse type of reclamation. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Laura.
Okay, so under the Enhanced Source Control Program, this project has been underway for a few years now. Our initial effort was to review the existing pretreatment programs that cities of Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County have in place, and work with them to identify what their needs are in terms of, gaining intelligence on dischargers and what pollutants might be discharged, different regulatory or other concerns that they have within their sewer catchments, and also to provide support looking forward to what contaminants might become regulated that would be a concern for those pretreatment programs, and also based on the reuse efforts that are being considered in each of these sewer sheds, what specific concerns would we have that we could address through enhanced source control. So we've developed individualized criteria for the enhanced source control programs in each of the 3 largest sewer sheds in the Reno Sparks metropolitan area, so at Stum Wharf, Tum Wharf, and Rose Wharf. And we've since been building off of that program now, developing monitoring plans as well as developing records that could be used to easily look up what types of dischargers might be associated with certain contaminants, so that it could also help facilitate more rapid identification of potential dischargers in the future. So the text isn't quite displaying right, but under this we've had 4 major reports. The first one that has a final report. We conducted the review of the existing pretreatment programs and highlighted what areas of concern could be built upon to further enhance those existing programs. And we also highlighted the successes that those programs have in addressing certain constituents of concern. And then for the 3 largest facilities, we've developed baseline monitoring programs. At Rose Wharf, that baseline monitoring program is currently in place, and we've conducted a few months of monitoring at that facility. And at Tum Wharf and Stum Wharf, we're still working with the facilities to make sure that these plans address their actual needs and aren't creating a burden for those agencies, while also providing important intelligence on the dischargers within those facilities. And complementary to that effort is the Regional Effluent Management Guidance. Under this project, I'm working with Kim Rigdon. We're building off the work that's been done over years. Specifically, my part is with taking the fact sheets that were previously developed by Rick Warner and others. These fact sheets provide critical information about the wastewater effluent management alternatives for different reuse strategies in each of the sewer sheds. Some of them work together, some of them are more of a go-it-alone approach, and I've incorporated that information into a GIS interface that allows you to really interact with the data more, see it in a geographical space, and also have a quick retrieval of any important reports and reference documents associated with those plans, so you can easily access additional information on those projects. And the big vision for this project is to enhance the ability of the regional agencies to have workshops and discussion around the different trade-offs. And also, in this GIS interface, we can quickly make adjustments because constantly the ideas and justifications for these reuse strategies might change, and we can immediately live make those edits. And then, as Dr. Pagila mentioned, we recently held our inaugural Truckee River Watershed Symposium. This brought together a bunch, researchers, young researchers from across the University of Nevada, Reno. These researchers were all doing research in areas that are critical to the Truckee River watershed, and they're actively researching within the watershed. So we covered departments from philosophy, geography, ecology, biology, as well as engineering and other departments, and had discussion around their research and had great participation from the agencies, and we look forward to continuing this. We had excellent turnout from the agencies. I think, mostly 55 different stakeholder attendees were able to come. And they also provided really valuable feedback for what we hope to do in the future, having more interactive discussion. But overall, we had excellent discussion around topics from climate change and wildfire management and the management of the Truckee River, as well as interdisciplinary perspectives such as economics and philosophy and social sciences. And I think that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we will be happy to take any questions from the commission.
Well, thank you, Dr. Pagila and Dr. Hawk. Questions from the commission?
Don't worry, Laura. That on. No question, just a comment. I mean, I really don't even know what to say. I mean, Krishna and your group have been invaluable to this region on any number of issues over the last 8 years, from the work on helping develop potable reuse to the work, Laura, that you're doing now on the source control, to the work even at Tumworth that I'm not familiar with, but having the resources from UNR available to assist us in our efforts. I mean, like I said, it's just been invaluable, and I can't thank you enough, so.
Thank you, Commissioner Enlow, for those kind comments.
Other questions or comments? Great. I guess I'll just throw it out there too. I would second what Commissioner Enlow said. I mean, both of you in particular, as well as the other researchers in your group, have always been a pleasure to work with and bring a lot of value to us. I continue to look forward to our collaboration on the Enhanced Source Control project. So thank you.
May I jump in? May I comment?
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe not. Okay, anyway, yeah, no. On top of all of that, which I certainly agree with, I don't want to lose light of the support we got from you during COVID, and particularly in the early days when nobody knew what the hell was going on, or the later days when nobody knew what the hell was going on. But the testing that continues to this day for the community watershed analysis, I thought was, if not the first, one of the first in the nation, and it was fabulous to be part of that, and I thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioner Drinkwater. As we discussed way in the visioning part of it, that you built the capacity and the infrastructure for us to be able to work with you, and that COVID monitoring was something really an outcome of, we were prepared to do virus analysis from wastewater, and the pandemic hit, and we pivoted to that. And because we had, people like Laura and Lynn and, who were going out Thanksgiving, Christmas in 2020, New Year's, Halloween, doesn't matter what holiday, out there in the sewer system, 12 different sites, opening manhole covers and taking samples and analyzing them within days and providing that data to all the agencies. I mean, we really feel that something good came out of that pandemic was that we really were able to develop that work that at least hopefully gave some useful information. Thank you.
All right, well, hearing no further comment, this item is information only, so we'll be moving on to item 6, presentation of Sierra Nevada Journeys One Water Nevada STEM Education Program. All right, Ms. Brigden, did you want to tee this off?
Thank you, yes. Sorry, I had to do a little musical chairs there for a second. Kim Rigdon for the record. Thank you, Chairman, members of the commission. Sean Hill is the CEO of Sierra Nevada Journeys, and the Western Regional Water Commission is currently funding the development of the science, technology, engineering, and math curriculum, which is STEM curriculum, to be developed by Sierra Nevada Journeys and then piloted within our communities. Sean is here to show us that curriculum and talk about his experiences with that. And with that, Sean?
Let's see here. Thank you, Program Manager Rigdon. Thank you, Commission. Excited to be here today and give you an update on our program. So yeah, I'm Sean Hill with Sierra Nevada Journeys. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about who we are, just as a refresher. We are a local nonprofit organization. This is why we're here. So I'm showing a couple statistics up on the screen right now. We hear 70% of teachers, this is self-reported data in this community, 70% of elementary teachers spend less than 3 hours a week on science, let alone watershed education. That's in the elementary classroom. And I can tell you it's much less than 3 hours a week. Additionally, children are in front of screens 15 times longer than they play outdoors. We have sorry I didn't put the source up there, but children are on screens all the time. And so, one of the big reasons why we're here is to try to help get kids outside, get kids connected with their local places. So our mission is to deliver innovative outdoor science-based education programs for youth to develop critical thinking skills and to inspire natural resource stewardship. So, two big themes of our work is science and outdoor education. And really, it's the natural sciences that is the bridge there. So when we have kids out in the forest, we're talking about the forest habitat, the forest ecosystem. We have kids out at the river, we're talking about those communities and the riparian ecosystems. So the natural sciences is really the connection point for those two things. But there's a lot of benefits to getting kids outside. There's the educational benefits academically, science. There's a lot of critical thinking and problem solving that happens when you get kids outside. We pose problems to kids and have them work together to develop solutions. So there's a lot of youth development that goes into this work as well. So yeah, our core education programs, we're in the classroom. We deliver a hands-on science curriculum to schools as kind of a guest presenter. And then we take those same kids on a one-day field experience and picture going down to the lower Truckee River at McCarran Ranch, or taking the kids to the Oxbow Preserve in downtown Reno, or taking the kids to the forests near Galena Creek. So that we call that Classrooms Unleashed, and it pairs those indoor or the in-classroom presentations with outdoor field trips. We also have a camp about 45 minutes from here near the community of Portola. So we have an outdoor residential science camp. We just had my kids' school last week up there, Verdi Elementary, and the kids will spend anywhere from 2 to 4 nights with us with their whole classroom. It's usually 5th and 6th graders. And the topic of the day of the week is getting kids outside, getting them hands-on, going to the pond, looking at macroinvertebrates, hiking through the forest, thinking about the ecosystem up there, having them compare that to where they're from. In many cases, we serve students from Sacramento. In many cases, we serve students from Reno. So we're trying to take what we're teaching them up there and have them apply it to where they're coming from. Additionally, we have summer camp programming happening up at that camp as well. We have community programs that we do. We're working more and more in the after-school space now, which is there's a great need. I think in the literature it's called out-of-school time learning, OST. After school is an example of out-of-school time learning, and it's a place that informal education providers can have a lot of impact with youth. So we're developing more in the after-school environment. And then we have our family STEM nights, which is our way to help schools build partnerships with their families. And so we take over the hosting and facilitation of those events. It's academically based, but it's fun because it's Sierra Nevada Journeys. And that's where we've placed the One Water efforts that I'll be talking to you more about today. So impacts, we've grown quite a bit. I was just talking to Birgit today. We've been around since 2006, started in the back of a climbing gym in Reno, out off Audi many, many years ago. And now we have an office. We have a sister program in Sacramento. We have the robust Classrooms Unleashed program here in Reno. And then we have the camp facility in Portola. We became owners of that camp, the 500-acre property in 2020 after a capital campaign, when we heard that the owners wanted to sell it, and we wanted to make sure that we could preserve that space for generations to come. And so we didn't want to see it become a golf course. So we raised the funding to purchase that property. You can see our statistics up there. We've grown quite a bit in that time, and now across those communities are serving well over 30,000 students a year. That's through all those touch points. That might be 150 people at a family STEM night, 60 people at an overnight science camp, and the 90 kids that we saw last week in Classrooms Unleashed. You add all those up in all of our communities, and those are the numbers that we get. You can see our demographics up there as well. And and I think you'll see this today, one of the reasons I think for our success is that we've been deemed very relevant by teachers. And one reason why that is because we've placed a lot of emphasis on assessing our students and evaluating our outcomes. And we have externally validated research that shows that students that participate in Sierra Nevada Journeys programs actually are doing better on the state science exams. Now, the state science exams don't happen very often. They only happen in 5th grade and then in 8th grade, and then again once in high school, I believe. Whereas math and English language arts, those tests are happening every year. So, but we are seeing differences in those students that we serve on those big high stakes years of the science assessment. And I'll have time for questions later, or during. If you all have any questions, please let me know. So what you see up here right now, these are some visuals of our family STEM night experience. It's usually a 2-hour event. The school is doing making the invitations to the families. We show up and host several STEM stations that are interactive, hands-on. We end the evening with a design challenge, so we give families some materials and give them constraints, and then they build something together. And that might be the longest roller coaster, or a wind car, or a lunar lander that they have to drop off without the marshmallow astronauts getting tipped over. We do quite a few of these in Northern Nevada. We're up to about 50 a year. And this is a really great audience to reach families. They're very multi-generational events. Uncles are there, older brothers and sisters are there. They typically take place at elementary schools, but we do some of these at middle schools as well. In terms of the One Water initiative, so we're right on track with where we wanted to be with this program. We're developing messaging to go out through these family science nights for youth and families. I would characterize it as light touch education. We're not going out there with a model of an advanced purified water treatment facility, but what we are doing is we're showing families that water is a precious resource, that that groundwater is a thing, and that when we tap into groundwater, we have to think about recharging those systems. So we're trying to create a picture for the audiences that water is a resource that we need to be thinking about. And I'll tell you more about the curriculum here in a moment. So we've developed multiple stations. We've been piloting those stations at STEM Nights this spring. So we have some budget details up there as well. Let me move on to the next slide. In terms of the development of these stations, I'm showing you a lot of the stakeholders that we were working with as we designed kind of the first drafts of, we have 4 stations that we're testing out right now, including folks from WRWC, Mark Milan with Data Instincts, Tumwa, and then our own team members. It's been an iterative design process to develop these One Water stations. These are after I show you the schools, I'll then go into some of the stations themselves. These are the schools that we've seen. this spring in piloting of these stations. This is a little bit in the weeds, but the numbers here are a little bit lower than we're used to seeing in the family STEM night environment. We're seeing more schools that are choosing to do the STEM nights right after school instead of having parents come back around dinner time, and so I think we're seeing some different trends with that. But that's kind of why you see some of these lower numbers here today. Okay, so I'm going to take you through kind of the curriculum as we've developed it. Again, we've been piloting it. Some of it's working great, some of it needs improvement. The first station, no such thing as new water. So, kiddos that interact, they learn that we're teaching them about aquifers. And so we built these homemade aquifer models that students can pump water out of, and then they can recharge. And so we're trying to just get across that idea of where water comes from. In some communities, it comes mostly from aquifers. Of course, we're place-based, so we talk about the Truckee River with students in this region and how most of our water is coming from the river, but we want to give kids and families that background on this resource. Thinking about using water wisely, so giving kids a water allotment. So having 25 mils of water, giving them 5 cups, telling them that they need to brush their teeth, take a shower, feed the dog, have dinner, and then having the students pour their own allotment of that water into their different usage cups, so they can start to see that it's a limited resource and we have to spread it around. In the third station, we actually start talking more about how do you conserve water? How do you, deal with this resource in a way that is sustainable? And so we start talking about things like desalinization, rain harvesting, treated wastewater. And so this is where it's getting a little bit more specific, and you can kind of see the buildup that we're doing here with these stations. And then the fourth one, we're doing kind of a simulated filtration treatment activity with the students where they get to pick the mediums that they want to try to filter out the water, and then they get to see how successful those designs are. So how's the pilot going? Great field testing this spring. It's not all working great. Our groundwater models are getting clogged. Some of the activities are a little bit, it's such a fine line because they have to be active, you can't have too much content, you can't have too much reading. So we're kind of seeing where those lines are right now. We have a lot of ideas. We're going to meet with our education team this summer, and we're going to tweak and improve. Some of the station write-ups are too complicated. The activity with desalinization, rain harvesting, and treating wastewater is very content-heavy, and we need to rethink that one. It's been an interesting project because some of these stations are very light touch on this concept to kind of get communities thinking about this. So I could see perhaps in year 2 and 3 getting more complex in the design of these. We're open to being this being a dynamic evolution of program. So next steps, curriculum improvement this summer. We're going to roll out the updated stations in the fall of 2024. And then I imagine we might get some more, we'll continually get feedback and refine. And then the idea is that we're going to do full rollout in 2025 and beyond. Okay, that's the overview. What questions can I answer?
Great. Questions or comments for Mr. Hale? Commissioner Anlow.
Again, I don't think any questions. I just really appreciate your group's involvement in public education and outreach related to One Water Nevada. I think it's just going to help us in this community advance the concepts of just being smart about water use and all things water. So thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, I think that we have a unique value proposition in that we get in front of so many families, and we're kind of a known quantity now, and people know that we're fun. So yeah, the fun part for us is, I agree, I think we can really help with this messaging. We just want to toe that line to make sure it's fun and educational. So we're figuring that out. Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Drinkwater?
Thanks, sir. So So I echo Mr. Enlow's comments. I greatly appreciate the impact on the next generation. So the people who are sitting at this dais, 20 years from now, will have a more informed public. Not that I want them to know anything, any particular policy, this is good, that is bad, other than there is no such thing as new water. If that's all they walk away with, we are miles ahead of where we were 10 years ago. And I greatly appreciate the efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to give express my appreciation to Sierra Nevada Journeys. So my wife is a fifth grade teacher. That's where they learn about the water cycle, or one of their, critical parts of the science curriculum at that age. And every year, my wife participates in the Sierra Nevada Journeys led Hands in the River activity. And for those of you who don't know exactly what that is, they take the students down, they look for benthic macroinvertebrates to determine, water quality. And that's something we actually do at the treatment plant. I mean, so it's incredibly practical. I mean, the kids love it. And my wife has had students participate in the science camp. And I think every year it's just such a highlight of their science curriculum. So I think the work that you're doing with the community is, terrific. I hear about it. My wife is a regular advocate of your program. So I just wanted to, say that I think this is great. Are you planning on revisiting the same schools as you reiterate, the different stations? Or are you looking at branching out to other schools?
Yeah, good question. We typically have, I wish I had percentages for you, but many of the schools that we work with in this program rebook for the next year. But every year we are getting new and different schools. And so sometimes school might drop off and we'll catch a new school. We try to have, we put out like 12 to 15 stations at an event, but we have 30, maybe even 40 stations developed. So, if we're going to go to Lemelson STEM Academy in 23 and again in 24, we'll mix up the stations a little bit so that we're not doing the same content. But we have a lot of repeat schools year over year. And that's why I'm thinking it could be interesting to, dive in again in a year and a half and change the curriculum once again, because we do have a lot of repeat schools.
Commissioner Crump.
First, thank you very much for what you're doing. It's really important. I'm just curious, how often do you see elements of your curriculum being adopted by teachers?
Yeah, it's a great question. Some teachers love having Sierra Nevada Journeys there because they're not comfortable teaching science. Some teachers pull us in because they love science, they love teaching it, and they realize that the kids are getting a different benefit with a different speaker. It's novel. I think there's some research behind novel approach or novel, anyway. So there are teachers many teachers are perfectly capable of teaching the things that we're doing, but they prefer having us in there because it's different. It's different, it feels different. We have t-shirts on, and it's not the teacher's voice, and so we're excited when teachers use us for a couple of years and then stop because they can do it themselves. Love to work ourselves out of a job, but it's kind of runs the gamut.
Yes, Ms. Rigdon?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to Sean, and I have personal experience taking water activities into the classroom, and that is not an easy feat. It's messy, it's a lot of equipment you're hauling in, and so I understand that it probably gets a little bit convoluted when you're on the ground trying to, pilot these activities. So I can appreciate the effort that took. And I also wanted to just say, I think the question that arose was, are the teachers implementing this in their classrooms? And I did some of this education for a lot of years. And the novelty of having a guest speaker come into the classroom has such a different impact on the class than if it's the teacher giving an additional lesson in science. So I particularly appreciate this approach, and thank you so much for helping us out.
Thank you, Kim. And quick comment on that activity where we're having the kids pour their 5 mils each into their boy, that's messy. That's messier than we thought it was going to be. So we're one of our educators thought maybe we should use beans. And I'm like, well, water though. It's water. So anyway, that definitely happens. But thanks everybody for the opportunity today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, this item is for information only. So moving on to item 7. We have presentation on per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS regulations.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Rigdon?
Thank you, Chairman. Members of the Commission, Kim Rigdon for the record. Back in October, the WRWC asked staff to enter into a professional services agreement with Jacobs Engineering. They wanted to remain apprised on the ever-evolving PFAS regulations. And we hired Jacobs and contracted with them, and he gave Scott Greco, who is here to give the presentation, gave 2 presentations to the North Valley's Water Subcommittee, as well as the WRWC back in October. The WRWC requested another update at our previous WRWC meeting, so I thought it would be good for Jacobs to come and give a presentation to this board as well, so that you're updated on the regulations as well. So we have Scott Greco on the line. He's on Zoom. Scott, are you, I don't know, I want to make sure Scott can hear me. Okay, great.
Yeah, I just want to share my screen, and it says that I am not able to share.
Oh, we'll get that working for you.
Yeah, okay. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Everything's good.
Give me 1 second.
Please stand by.
Guess while Kim's doing that, I'll make a quick statement. I also wanted to thank Sean Hill for leading that elementary hands-on education. I was appreciated learning about how much of a wonderful program that was, and that is very cool that that is available and accessible in your area. That's neat.
Scott, can you try that again?
Let's see. Oh yeah, here we go.
Perfect.
There we go. All right, can you see the screen?
Yep, we're good.
All right. Well, thank you, Kim and Commissioner and members of the commission. Yeah, as Kim mentioned, I will be presenting a brief update on regulations having to do with PFAS. So to frame in, EPA has been very focused on PFAS since October of 2021 when they issued the PFAS roadmap. They have a roadmap that is widely focused. It involves a number of the different media that are impacted by PFAS, such as water, air, chemical safety, land, and certainly the research end as well. And this provides a bit of summary of where EPA currently is in some areas where they're heading in terms of the regulation front. So this is an overall summary of the federal actions for PFAS, and I'd like to emphasize that these are all national, not state or local efforts. These are all through EPA. As I go through this list, some of these have more detail, which I'll be presenting here in this presentation, and others are underway and or details will be available publicly through the EPA website. For drinking water, first and foremost, I think what is on everybody's mind is the recent promulgation of the drinking water regulations, the MCLs under the EPA Safe Drinking Water Act. Beyond that, there's a number of actions that EPA has been focused on in taking initiative around wastewater. A couple years ago, the EPA issued a directive memo to state agencies urging them to look at source identification and pollutant minimization as part of state overall programs and utilizing industrial pre-treatment permits where local municipalities have those to engage those those types of pollutant minimizations. EPA is finalizing national sampling program for wastewater. They're anticipating, from what I understand, to be finalizing that and starting that at some point towards the last quarter of this year. And it would be a 2-year sampling program across a number of wastewater utilities across the U.S. to establish baseline data of PFAS in wastewater systems. They're anticipating issuing at some point potentially PFAS regulations under the Clean Water Act in through wastewater discharge programs known as NIPDs. And lastly, categorical discharge standards for certain industries have been focused on in potentially ensuing with the EPA. Certain industries that are known to be PFAS users, such as metals plating, pulp and paper, and landfills. Under the environmental media, treatment residuals and biosolids, I'll talk about these in more detail. There's the EPA CERCLA rule that's been finalized, the EPA RCRA proposal, and EPA is completing a biosolids risk assessment that we're still anticipating to be issued at the end of this year. And lastly, they do have water quality standards. They have issued draft aquatic life ambient water quality criteria for both freshwater and saline water for aquatic organisms. Specifically around the EPA drinking water maximum contaminant level, the basis of these drinking water regulations, these provide a standard in the rules set to reduce PFAS to the lowest level that are feasible for effective implementation. EPA understands that the final rule will take time to plan and construct for many treatment systems, or take other actions, such as finding alternative water sources in order to be in compliance. So that is one particular reason why the rule allows systems the flexibility and time to determine the best solution for the community. The original proposed rule was supposed to be enacted in compliant within 3 years. They've extended that to 5 years under that concern. The other thing to point out is the EPA calculation for these drinking water values that I'll present assumes that 80% of an individual's exposure is not from drinking water. The majority of individuals across the U.S. and across the globe, the exposure is due to other contribution. Example contributions may be inhalation of indoor carpet dust that's been treated with stain repellent, exposure to personal care products such as skin lotions and cosmetics, and potentially even contact with or ingestion of food that's been in contact with food contact surfaces, such as wrappers or pizza boxes that may have non-stick and non-grease type coatings that are PFAS based. The last thing that's important to point out is that all these calculations are based on a lifetime exposure. These are not, due to acute exposure under a short-term scenario. So these, in a summary, are the final drinking water regulations, the numerical MCL values. For those of you that may have reviewed the draft version, I'll just highlight some quick changes here. One was they added numerical MCL values specifically for PFHXS, PFNA, and GenX, 3 of the target PFAS compounds. There were some changes in significant figures which affect how to calculate compliance. Compliance is calculated through averaging, which we'll talk about. Corrected a typo. The hazard index, which is part of the calculation of the 4 compounds that are part of this rule, they changed it from only needing 1 compound of any of the four to be relevant for a hazard index you need at least two of the compounds in the calculation to even qualify for a hazard index. The values are presented below. There are MCL goals, which are not enforceable, set at 0 for PFOA and PFOS. The actual promulgated value for compliance is 4 for each of those compounds. The new values for the 3 compounds that I mentioned, they're each set, both the goals and the final promulgated MCL are set at 10 parts per trillion or nanograms per liter. And then there's the hazard index calculation. I want to point out at the bottom there's a list of PFAS compounds and minimum reporting levels for the laboratory for each individual compound, and that becomes important. And I'll readdress that again when we talk about compliance and how to maintain compliance and measure compliance. So quickly for that hazard index, this is the way the hazard index works. The 4 compounds, the measured values are put into the equation in each area, and it's divided by their health-based MCL, which were in the previous table, and you sum up each of those 4 values, and if you're below 1, you're in compliance with the MCL. If that calculation exceeds 1, the HI is exceeded and the MCL is exceeded. The important point of having more than 1 compound is that there's many places that the EPA is determining have PFBS specifically in the water, which has a very high health value, a very large denominator, which makes the impact to the health very, very low, where they don't have other detected compounds such as PFNA or PFHXS, for example. So if you only have one of these compounds, the application of the HI does not apply. So as I mentioned, they've extended what they proposed originally as a 3-year compliance schedule out to 5 years. And within those 5 years, there are some milestones or trigger points that need to happen. So within the first 3 years, I should mention that the rule is officially set for June 25th of this month. So that is when the clock starts. So by June 25th, 2027, each public service shall conduct initial monitoring. Initial monitoring shall include up to 4 quarters or more of 4 quarters of quarterly collected data. If a utility already has data, such as under the UCMR 5 program or other qualified state data that was collected, the utility can obtain approval to use previous monitoring data prior to 2024. I think anything from January 2019 forward is applicable. At 3 years, or at that 2027 date, a utility is required to commence compliance monitoring to establish enough time between compliance monitoring and initiating any activities that need to happen for compliance to establish a baseline program. All the data that is collected for compliance monitoring should be reported in the Consumer Confidence Report if it's not being done already by 2027. And at 2027, the utility should issue a public notification of any exceedances of the MCLs. It's not a regulatory compliance value from a violation or fine at that point, but EPA is requiring public notification of any exceedances to be issued. And then by 2029, June of 2029, each utility needs to be in compliance with the MCLs. For initial monitoring requirements, as I mentioned, between now and 2027, should have at least 4 consecutive quarterly samples for all surface water systems and a large groundwater system greater than a 10,000 people service. They've reduced the monitoring requirements for smaller systems to reduce the monitoring burden in any system delivering to less than 10,000 people can use semi-annual samples instead of quarterly samples. Compared to the current UCMR 5 data that's being collected that requires both EPA drinking water methods for maximum number of contaminants, because each of the MCL group of 6 is included in either method. Either method is acceptable for compliance and for initial monitoring. So when a utility is determining compliance, as I mentioned, they're going to be based off of quarterly samples for entry point into each entry point into the distribution system if there's more than one. It'll be based on a rolling annual average based on the previous 4 quarters collected. So this graph here gives a good example just with some random data that could be observed in a collection system. So the blue bars represent what's actually measured. And this is for PFOA that would have the MCL of 4 nanograms per liter. The blue bars represent what's actually measured. So you can see that there were detections in each quarterly sample in this fictional example between January 2025 and January 2027. The calculated value is the value that you use for compliance. So you'll notice that there are no calculated values or the compliance value of 0 for anything that's below the minimum reporting level, which is 4 nanograms per liter. So when you start doing the rolling annual average, which in this example starts 4 quarters in or on October 2025, you can see that even at that point, there's been 2 samples that have been exceeded on individual samples, but the rolling annual average, for compliance purposes, does not exceed 4 nanograms per liter. And as the quarterly samples continue to be collected, the oldest of the 4 data get kicked out and the rolling annual average continues. And even though there's variation in some samples are over and some samples are under, this utility with these data would maintain compliance 100% of the time because 100% of the quarters on a rolling annual average are below the 4 nanograms per liter. So EPA has set up this means of compliance calculation to allow some results to exceed 4 for single measurements if the overall annual average is below. So in their words, in quotes in the regulation, in other words, there is a buffer built in determining compliance, recognizing again that it's not necessarily a short-term acute value, but it's trying to maintain compliance for the long-term chronic exposure in a drinking water value. For CERCLA and RCRA, these are really potentially impactful to water utilities for residuals management. That could be treatment residuals on the water side for surface water systems, such as maybe like lime sludge, or if you're actually treating for PFAS, the media used to treat PFAS. For wastewater, it could be biosolids, anything that's a residual out of the treatment process. I'd like to emphasize one thing. So the CERCLA rule is finalized. It is focused on PFOA and PFOS only. And a lot of times there's discussions of PFAS as a hazardous waste. CERCLA does not define a hazardous waste. It defines these 2 compounds, PFAS compounds, as hazardous substances. So what that really means is that the intent of identifying them under CERCLA is to drive environmental cleanup compensation for sites such as a Superfund site that's typically the moniker used for CERCLA. It's the Superfund rule. It's allow EPA to have a means and mechanisms to drive compensation for environmental cleanup. EPA has stated specifically that it's not their intention to target utilities, but it could impact residuals management if utilities are not exempt through legislative matters. It does not define, also, it does not define how to dispose of PFAS. There is no requirement under CERCLA to dispose of it as hazardous waste. I'd also like to emphasize that there's no means for utilities to control PFAS entering the sewer or the environment from residential sources. So utilities are recognized, as passive receivers of these materials. Under RCRA, which is a proposed rule, again, EPA is proposing as hazardous constituents under the RCRA definition, and that's expanded to 9 different types of PFAS. This would be considered in RCRA facility assessments, again, for RCRA cleanup. It does not designate PFAS as hazardous waste. And there'll be more to come on the RCRA proposal because that has not been finalized yet. There are 2 key aspects of CERCLA: reporting threshold for release of PFOA and PFOS greater than 1 pound in 24 hours. For many utilities, almost all utilities, this threshold is not an issue. So what does become an issue is managing hazardous waste and potential managing the residuals and managing how those residuals are disposed. I want to emphasize again that this ruling does not define them as hazardous waste, but hazardous substances. So that does not require a treatment system to be treated in any particular fashion. It does not require a utility to dispose of the residuals in any particular type of landfill, nor does that designation restrict, change, or recommend any specific activity or type of waste at the landfills. Just to wrap up the CERCLA, again, there's an enforcement discretion policy being identified by the EPA. EPA has indicated that their decisions will be made on a site-by-site basis. If a release from the site poses an unacceptable risk to human health or the environment, would they indicate that they would step in and potentially enact some sort of cleanup or compensation under CERCLA. The focus by EPA is to hold those responsible who are significantly contributing to the release of PFAS to the environment directly. The EPA does not intend to pursue entities where equitable factors do not support seeking responses or costs under CERCLA. So that is specifically including not targeting community water systems, not targeting publicly owned treatment works, municipal separate storm sewer systems, or publicly owned municipal solid waste landfills. And again, to reemphasize, EPA under this ruling does not intend to pursue the utilities. So that's maybe a fairly in-depth but comprehensive and quick summary of the new PFAS regulations that are out there and in the roadmap of where EPA may head in the not too distant future. So I'd be open to any comments or questions.
All right, questions or comments for Dr. Grieco? Commissioner Enlow.
Just one, Scott. You mentioned that the EPA has issued aquatic life ambient water quality criteria, draft of that. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, I can speak to that, John. They're draft, and I can actually grab them and share them with you. But what I will say in just as a high-level summary, is that they're generally in milligram per liter dosages, not nanogram per liter dosages. So their determination of acute and chronic protection of aquatic life are several orders of magnitude higher than what they've issued for drinking water.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? All right, well, thank you so much for your time today and your presentation. It's been very insightful.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, as this item is for information only, we'll move on to item number 8, Program Manager's Report. Ms. Rigdon.
Thank you, Chairman. Members of the commission, if I could call your attention to item 8A in your packet. This is our fiscal year 24 status report of projects and work plan supported by the Regional Water Management Fund. I give this report to the board pretty much every meeting. There's a few that we skip. Last meeting, it was requested by one of the commission to include the amendment dates for fiscal year 25. So you'll see that there's an additional column in the report that shows fiscal year 25 amendment project completion date. Those are the projects that we've amended that will continue through, that were approved in the budget, the fiscal year 25 budget. I'll just do a couple highlights. You've heard a lot of presentations today. I don't think I need to go through too many of the projects, and then you can send some questions my way. One item, the Data Instincts contract with One Water Nevada, I just wanted to report that Mark Milan gave a presentation to the Western Regional Water Commission at the last meeting regarding the April 16th Advanced Purified Water site visits that we went on to Southern California and saw 3 facilities there. It was a big group. We had 22 participants, and we toured the Orange County Water Replenishment Facility, the Pure Water Southern California Innovation Center, and the Albert Robles Learning Center, and had wonderful, wonderful feedback on those facility site visits. They want to continue those site visits, so I want to brainstorm with the board at some point on where other locations would be of interest to go visit. We see the California systems, but I think there's other systems across the country that might have treatment trains that are a little bit more similar to what we're proposing in our community. So we'll take a look at some expanding and seeing some different facilities moving forward. Also, there is a new stormwater permit coordinating committee with the city of Reno. The new coordinator is Christopher Holman, and Teresa Jones will be retiring. So I just wanted to make that quick announcement. We met with Christopher yesterday, and looking forward to meeting with him more regularly on stormwater committee activities. Other than that, I would like to turn it over to the commission for specific questions on the financial budgets of any of the projects or status updates.
Yes, we'll start off with Commissioner Drinkwater.
So, thank you, Kim. I was the grumpy one who asked for the detail, and I appreciate you providing that. I also would like to throw out there, just not looking for answers today, but for contemplation, I did not go on the most recent trip to the California treatments, but I have been on previous trips. And I don't know that we need to expand the number of treatment trains we get to see so much as the people who see them. I mean, we've seen them. Some of our electeds, the Western Regional Water Commission representatives, have seen them. I understand there are challenges here, but expanding the group, I mean, we have regulators who we're going to have to be involved in this, specifically, at the state level and the district health level and whatnot, and starting including them in this conversation and how we do that appropriately so we're not clouding their judgment when we come before them to ask them to change the law. So we just ask the commission to contemplate that, so when we workshop how we expand the group of people, not necessarily as geeky as I can be about wastewater treatment. I mean, I don't know that we need to see the latest, greatest widget.
Got it.
Other questions or comments for Kim? Anything you wanted to add, Kim?
No, I think that sounds great. I think the original intent of that was to expand the participation. So we had really good participation. NDEP, members of NDEP came. We had the first trip in January to Monterey was primarily Northern Nevada Public Health Department officials and staff. So we are working towards expanding those participant lists and getting more people on board. We really do want to get more staff just from the regional agencies to come see what's being done in the other communities. So thank you.
That was my first trip, and I thought everything was really well coordinated. I thought the sites that we visited were very intentional, very purposeful, and I really took away a lot from that. So I appreciate all the coordination on your end and on Data Instinct's end, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, this item being information only, we'll move on to item number 9. Discussion and possible direction to staff regarding agenda items, dates, and locations for future Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission meetings. Ms. Rigdon?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the commission. So the next meeting is scheduled for August 7th here in the chambers. We don't hold a July meeting due to the holiday week. I would like to request to add an agenda item. In their last meeting, the WRWC commended the region's collaboration on wastewater planning, stated there's a potential for a more coordinated regional approach to wastewater management. The commission acknowledged the valuable work the Regional Effluent Management Team is doing and the Joint Coordinating Committee, and believe it's time for policymakers to support a broader regional effort. The commission has requested that I present this matter to the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission and bring back recommendations for a more organized and dedicated approach. This includes the potential of hiring consultants, involving TUMWA given their work on return flow issues with the tribe, and exploring options such as a regional wastewater board or other solutions that would result in a more comprehensive planning beyond what the existing efforts entail. The WRWC would like to see the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission present options on how to proceed, specifically addressing budgeting and the collaborative management and planning of the wastewater systems. They believe that the WRWC and Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission boards are the best entities at this point to make these informed decisions and recommendations to them. So I would appreciate if we could include this as an agenda item for the August meeting, and I will be working with the chairman to put that discussion and the objectives of the discussion together.
Does that need to be a motion?
Yes.
Okay, do you have a proposed motion?
Can I
I
say it
move to
verbally?
direct Kim to bring back an item exactly as she just described to our August meeting.
Thank you.
I second that.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Drinkwater and a second by Commissioner Enlow. Any discussion from the commission? All right, hearing none. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. And then do I need to pass a motion for the next meeting and location?
I'll let Lucas answer that.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, moving on to item number 10, commission comments. Do we have any Commissioner? All right, Commissioner Whitmer.
I'd just like to apologize to this board for not making the last meeting. As the chairman, that really wasn't supposed to be my last act. I was knee-deep in mortar and limestone dust building a civic display of the Charters of Freedom at the Nevada Veterans Memorial Plaza, which will be dedicated to the city of Sparks July 1st. It's a Monday at 11 p.m. I would invite you to join us.
Any other commission comments?
Is it on?
It's on?
Yeah.
Hi, I wanted to introduce myself because I'm on the roll now, as we discovered this earlier. I'm Jennifer Carr. I'm the administrator for the Division of Environmental Protection down in Carson City, and I don't know everyone, or at least I don't necessarily know you well, so just thought I'd say hi. I may have missed an email somewhere along the line, but I had been communicating with Ms. Rigdon Ms. Purgett about my involvement in ramping that up again. The division has been conspicuously absent since Mylin Wen was promoted out of NDEP and over to NDOT. And so we are, with much encouragement, we are increasing our involvement in this commission. And so I will appoint myself officially to the commission and then begin to sit with you there as a non-voting member of your body. So I just wanted to say hi, kind of give you some idea why I was sitting out there today, but just introduce myself and I look forward to getting to know you.
Great, and great to see you in person. All right, any other comments from commission?
Hello? Okay. Anyway, I also was recently appointed for the Northern Nevada Public Health Representative. My name is David Kelly. I'm a supervisor in environmental health services. I know some of you pretty well, but yeah, I'll be a non-voting member as well, and just wanted to say hi. So, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Well, hearing no further commission comments, we'll move on to item 11, staff comments. Do we have any staff comments?
No staff comments at this time, other than welcome to our non-voting members. Thank you for making your comments and introducing yourselves.
All right. Moving on to item number 12, public comment. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak at this time, or have we received any public comment? All right. Anyone in the audience? Nope. All right. Moving on to the final item, item number 13, adjournment. All right, Commissioner Crump with the motion.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Melton. Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, meeting adjourned.
Anyway.